I'm I am not a big hip hop person personally. Okay, as in I don't really listen to it. I respect it. When people play me stuff that they like, I'm like, oh yeah, that's good, that's good. But I mean, for the most part, if it's not Grateful Dead or rock, I don't really consume it. But I think the messages are fantastic. Like I've taught a lot of different artists in terms of their work, and looking at it in terms of like academically and socially and what it says about society and stuff is very important. And I feel that like this music video, I'm gonna be teaching this for years. I'll be talking about how this is I mean, I want to say a snapshot of the time, but it's not though. This right here incorporates the last 30 years of Black American culture and, excuse me, of status quo and the plateauing of growth in the economic growth of the Black community. There's so much embedded in this piece of artistic expression. I'm gonna go over some of it with you today, and we're gonna analyze it the same way in which you could do a poem, okay? Because think about music videos and how it's very equivalent to poetry, is that it's dealing with images that you have to piece together, and there's a lot of symbolism, and it's a small confined space put in, okay? Films are equivalent to novels, okay? And like TV episodes are equivalent to short stories. Like for example, when I go over the essay 3, it's a film analysis, because normally if this was the 16-week, you'd be reading a novel, all right, and you'd be doing a novel analysis. But because this is only, you don't have enough time to read a novel, we're doing a film analysis, because film is very comparable to a novel, and music videos is very comparable to poetry, because they're both short and they don't tell the whole story. They can't, so they have to rely a lot on theme, symbolism, and tone. Okay, so as I go through analyzing this video, we're treating it like it's a poem. Okay, and I'm also shortening the entirety of what we could talk about with this video. So note that. And if for any reason you weren't able to watch that on my screen, because I'm recording this right now. So if you didn't, if the recording came through bad, it was not good or whatever, just pause, stop this and go to YouTube and watch it, and then come back. And if you're watching this on YouTube, stop this YouTube video, pull up the This Is America music video on YouTube, and then come back to this one. All right. So I'm going to assume from this point onward that you have watched this. Did you call me? Sorry. Okay. So again, we are identifying the literal objects that some of the symbols represents, okay? So we have this Black narrator, and he's shooting another Black person in the head. Okay. Some might say, is he addressing Black on Black, violence and crime, which is something that, white people love to try to flip the scales on, okay? About how, well, look, why are we talking about racism when we have all that black and black crime over there, all those people in Chicago killing each other, okay? And it's like, no, this is not what we're talking about here. All right, let's look at what this represents, what this symbolizes, the figurative representation of this symbol. Okay, we have here Childish Gambino. I'll just refer to him as Gambino. Okay, he is imitating here the character of Jim Crow. Okay, the pose Gambino takes mimics the racist cartoon of the character Jim Crow that became the name of the racist segregation laws in America. Right. Jim Crow was a comic strip made by a white artist to make fun of black people in the 1800s. Jim Crow, okay? So then when the federal government outlawed slavery and freed black people, the states then enacted Jim Crow laws that were directly meant to segregate black people from white communities, okay? And they named them after this racist depiction of black people. And so they called them Jim Crow laws, okay? And so with that, we have Gambino here. He's imitating. So what does that mean? Okay. All right. And so, we have black people and we have Gambino representing. He's literally imitating Jim Crow, which is a symbol of the racist laws, the systemic racist laws put against black people. Okay. And in this act of him shooting this person in the head, okay, then he is imitating the systemic racism and the deadly impacts that this type of system has had on people of color. Okay, he is personified. He is the Jim Crow laws, and he is the personified idea of black people by white people, personified as he's going through here. Okay, and so it's kind of what he's saying is that the perception of black people is more real in America than the reality of individual black people. Okay, he is the manifestation of this racist idea of a black person. Okay, and that manifestation of the racist idea of black people has very violent and negative effects on the black community, which is why Gambino portraying this racist manifestation, this idea of black people in the minds of white people, is shooting this actually real black person, okay? Because it's dangerous. Having prejudices is dangerous. It leads to brutality against black people. It leads to black people being pulled over and being handled much more harshly and much more dangerously than white people, okay? All right, so look, using the dissection of the symbol, the characters and the effect on the characters determine a theme that the author is constructing. So we see this image. All right, the cars. So viewers drew connections to the black men routinely killed by police during traffic stops, including Philando Castile in Minnesota in 2016, okay? Well, these cars have their driver's side doors open and hazards on because they're symbolic of the cars of all the people pulled over and killed by the police. Again, on top of this is Gambino. He haunts the manifestation of the racist idea of black people that white people have constructed in their minds, and not just white people. Okay, when a racist prejudice is created and put out there by the majority, then even other minority groups will adopt this same racist perception. Okay, I mean, Trevor Noah talks about this in his book, Born a Crime, where he had he befriended some Asian immigrants who lived in South Africa, where he's from. South Africa is very much like America, where there was a white political majority who had control over the country, and they had very racist systemic laws in place against black people. And so other people of color would adopt these same racist perspectives that the white majority had. And so he talks about how Trevor Noah, who's black, talks about how he befriended these two Asian teenagers when he was a teenager, and that they're, he worked for them because they were afraid of Black people, because they believed in all of the projections that the white majority put on Black people and these ideas. So here we have Gambino, okay, who is haunting these cars, okay. This violent, wild, pot smoking, violent manifestation of Black people in the minds of the white majority haunts these cars, okay. And that when cops pulled over these drivers, instead of seeing these drivers as individuals, they see them all like this, okay, all as this manifestation. And so to one degree, the cars represent that, okay. Others found, though, economic symbolism within the sea of beat-up cars. The mostly parked vacant cars, and this is America reference, to the stalled social, economic, and political mobility of Black people in America. For some reason, the Black communities were on a rise up until about the 90s. And then there was a stagnation. There was a plateauing of or at least statistically by plateauing. Maybe it is moving up a little bit, but not statistically significant, okay, at a rate, at a positive rate, where the salaries and the social power and the political power of the Black community dwindled, okay. And so the cars represent that as well, since the fact that they're all late 80s, early 90s models, okay. All right, so those are just two ways that you can analyze this music video, okay. And if it was a poem, this is ways in which we could take these symbols and talk about what they mean in terms of their theme and deeper meaning, okay. And there's a lot more out there about this music video, so if you are interested, you should do some research and look deeper into the analysis of this video, which is just very striking and poignant and very smart. Okay. Cheers. Okay. So we had essay 1. Great. Essay 1. I'm about to go over the things that I really focused on in terms of what grading, which I'm going to focus on in grading in terms of, okay. And then we have essay 2, which is focused on a few different things, okay. And then by the time we get to essay 3, all of it should be put together and you'll be assessed on all of it, okay. So essay 1 was focused mostly on MLA formatting and using quotes. So when I grade your essays, even though I haven't graded them yet because they haven't been turned in yet, and you get another week, I will be grading MLA formatting, last name, page numbers, heading correct, spacing between all your stuff is accurate and correct. You have the title, no additional lines between the header and the title and the first paragraph. That the right side of your paragraphs of your essay is justified. I've talked about that. A lot of you, when you submitted your work online, I wrote comments about, for your adulterous woman assignments, I said, okay, your sides need to be justified, or punctuation goes inside of quotation marks. Okay, you got to make sure that you have MLA mastered and that you're using quotes. Essay 2, I'll be focused on the following: MLA formatting again, very important. That you use punctuation in your quotes, okay? That you use quotes correctly. They're not drop quotes, they're incorporated, and they have the correct punctuation. And then essay structure, which we're going to focus on today. Introductions, body paragraphs, conclusion, okay? And I will say this. No, I'm not going to say that. Oh, I already put this on here. Dang it. Well, I'm going to ignore this. You might read this in the notes, okay? I'm not going to comment on this because this might demotivate some of you, okay? This essay 1 hasn't been turned in yet, so I'm going to skip this. Okay, skip. All right. We're going to talk about constructing paragraphs. The introduction. in your introduction, you want to start off broad and then move to a more narrow and specific idea. Okay. It's like a triangle where the wide side's up here, and then you move down here. You start off broad, and then you move down to the thesis. So for this essay, follow this outline for your intro. Begin talking about diverse perspectives, just in general, because these poems deal with LGBTQIA+, which in the academic world we just refer to as queer. Okay, refers to queer issues and topics in poetry. It refers to this packet also deals with women's sort of perspectives, the female perspective. Some might call it feminism. Okay, and then it also deals with people of color. All right, perspectives and issues in that community. Lead into the power, of art and poetry as a vehicle to diverse expression. It's really important, I think, for people of different. So, like people who are the majority, it's really important for us to read diverse literature, so that way we understand how different people experience and see the world. Okay. I think people who are already in these diverse minority groups, it's important for them to read literature that reflects themselves, because then that way it makes them feel seen and heard, and then they can learn from each other. Also, it's important for people in minority groups to read other perspectives as well, to build a broader, better understanding. So, in minority groups and majority groups, they shift between genders, identity, and race. Okay, so we can't think of just minority and majority in terms of color, where white's the majority, and then we have people of color in minority groups. Okay, but it's also sexuality. Okay, the majority identifies as straight, so it's important for straight people to read LGBTQIA+ literature, so that way you have a more diverse understanding and open-minded perspective on people who identify as such. If you live in a country that has one predominant religion, then it's important to read about other people's and minority religions groups, to have to understand what they believe, and understanding more about people, and having a broader understanding of diversity creates more empathy. It should reduce violence and animosity and frustrations. It should reduce prejudices. It should reduce fear and xenophobia and homophobia and racism and sexism, and more familiar that we get with people. Okay, so that's really important. And then you should move into talking about the three poets or poems, or the one poet that you're going to be discussing. Hope that's not too loud. Sorry about that. All right, and then you end with your thesis statements, where you state the three poems, or the one poem, and the three things you're going to talk about that poem. Okay. So here's an example of a thesis statement. Poetry is a fundamental way to express one's existence, as it can be seen in the symbolism of house in the world, the theme of phenomenal woman, and in the feminist messages in What They Don't Tell You. Okay, and that was an actual student's thesis. I did not write that. I stole it. I stole it for this presentation. Okay, body paragraphs. Master the paragraph, master the essay. You got that? Master the paragraph, master the essay. There's three parts to a paragraph: claim, support, analysis. Claim, main idea that's being made in the paragraph. It is the main idea that a writer wants their readers to understand and know. There is only one claim in a paragraph. The rest of the paragraph is just proving and convincing the audience that the claim being made is legitimate and believable. And it should be 20% or less of your paragraph. Next comes contextual support, which is quotes, summaries, okay? And as I told somebody in the email, you gotta think baby bear, okay? Not too many quotes, not too few of quotes, just right, okay? You want to use just enough quotes to support your claim and analysis. This shows that what part of the text you are discussing, and it serves as evidence. 30% of your paragraph, 30%, okay, should just be support. You shouldn't have tons and tons of support, because support does not win your essay. It's the analysis. The analysis, so right there, boom, analysis, okay, is the last 50% of the paragraph. This is your explanation. This is where your paragraph wins or loses. Tell your reader how they need to understand the information. Don't just present them evidence and think, oh, it's clear as day. Nothing is as clear as you think it is. Everything discussed here needs to go back to the claim and the evidence. All right, so what does this look like? I'm going to show you this example from analyzing Milan. Now, this example does not have outside research. The support from in this paragraph only has references to the film, okay? So I'm going to show you a little bit further down in this PowerPoint examples of research, okay? So if we look at this, this is a complete paragraph analyzing the film Milan and using the 3 parts of a good paragraph. I'm going to read it to you, and then I'm going to break it up into its 3 parts. In the film Milan, the theme of the story is that women should be seen as equal and respected on the battlefield as much as men. In the movie, when Milan's kingdom is threatened by the invasion of the Huns, the men are called to war. Milan wants to serve too, but she's denied because of her gender. Therefore, she disguises herself as a male in order to fulfill her destiny to be a great warrior. Mulan is confident that she's strong and brave enough to be a warrior, but the male-dominated and sexist society that she lives in prohibits her from fighting, even though by surviving and thriving in the war, she proves that women can be as equal or more so than men in war. Although the film doesn't explicitly show people being killed, because there are battles fought, it can be understood that people do in fact die in these battles, yet Milan survives. And if it is understood that she is the only woman fighting in this war, then that means she, a woman, is more dominant in battle than many other male soldiers. With her rising political power as being a princess, combined with the self-assurance in believing that women can handle battle, she will be a mighty influence in her kingdom at leveling the field of respect paid toward women in battle and society. That was a lot. So the claim, we're gonna do it this way. Okay, the first part is claim. These first 2 lines, claim. Then we move into summary. In the movie, Milan's kingdom is threatened by the invasion of the Huns. The men are called to war. Milan wants to serve, blah, 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 blah. Okay. Then from this point on, we have analysis. Milan is confident. She's strong. She's brave. It didn't say that in the text. We interpreted that by her actions. It didn't say, hey, we live in a sexist society. We interpreted this because it's patriarchal. Okay. It doesn't show people being killed, but we are analyzing. It's to be understood. Therefore, we are interpreting it. Okay. All the second part is interpretation of what the film shows. Okay. And so 1, 2, 3, 4. This is 4 lines. The claim and this support is 4 lines. And then we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7.5 pages, 7.5 lines of analysis. Okay. Really only needed 4 lines of analysis. Okay, to be 50%, but instead it got 8, almost 8. Okay. There needs to be more analysis and more interpretation in your poem than summary. Okay. Make sure you do that. This is a well-constructed paragraph. We have 3 parts: claim, support, analysis, and it flows like that. Claim. Some people are going to want to put their analysis way up here. They're going to do claim, analysis, and then some support at the bottom. That's incorrect. Your support goes in the middle. Okay? You want to make sure that you follow this format. The conclusion. I'm ready to conclude this lecture, I'll tell you that. All right. In your conclusion, you want to reverse what you did with your introduction while ending on a personal note. For this essay, follow the outline for your conclusion. Begin by restating your thesis. Move into how people react individually to poetry. End with a discussion on what these poems mean to you. What do you think? Okay. First person pronouns should try to be limited to just the conclusion. Okay. There, I said it. All of your paragraphs should roughly be about the same number of lines. Your intro and conclusion should be about the same size, only slightly shorter than the body paragraphs. And all of your body paragraphs should be about the same size. Okay. Body paragraphs is called balance in your writing. There should not be like a super short paragraph and a really long paragraph. You want them all to be roughly, and I don't mean like every one of them 10 lines, okay? But like, there should be a range, you know, like one paragraph's 10 lines, not sentences, lines. The next paragraph is 12 lines. Another paragraph is then about 9 lines. Another paragraph is 11 lines. That's all in the same range. You don't want like a 6-line paragraph and then a 12-line paragraph and then a 7-line paragraph and then a 14-line paragraph. No. Okay. You want it balanced. Okay. Do you need a break? I'm going to eat a cracker. Not one of my children, but an actual cracker. Right here. I'm pausing for a moment. All done. It was so good. And in fact, I had 2. Okay. This is the last part of the lecture. All right. We're on third, going to home. Here we go. Using research to support analysis of poetry. Okay. We've already discussed topical and supportive research. Okay. So don't worry about that. Now, important punctuational issue dealing with poetry. When quoting a poem, use a diagonal slash to represent a break in the lines. Okay. So I'm going to use the example of the giving tree. So we have this poem. Terrible poem. I hate this poem. The poem reads, I want to buy things and have fun. I want some money. This said the boy. I'm sorry, said the tree, but I have no money. I have only leaves and apples. Take my apples, boy, and sell them in the city. Then you will have money and you'll be happy. Okay. Giving tree analysis. So I'm going to show you an example of analysis of this poem, and I'm going to show you an example of it being quoted. The tree in the poem represents the selfishness. I'm sorry. The tree in the poem represents the selflessness and empathy women show to their loved ones. When the boy exclaims that, I want to buy things and have fun, I want some money, the tree, wanting to help him, self-destructively tells him, I have no money. I have only leaves and apples. Take my apples and sell them in the city. These slashes mean that this was one line and this is another line. See, I want to buy things and have fun. I want to buy things and have fun. All right, next line. I want some money. I want some money. There should be right here a slash. The slash tells us it's a different line. Okay, but it's all in order. So make sure that when you are quoting your poems, if you are quoting 2 lines at once, that you have a slash. Okay, you don't quote and then hit enter and do the next line. It shouldn't look like this up here. It should look like this when you are typing. Okay. If that doesn't make any sense, email me. You want to research topics that deal with your poetry packet. You're not so much researching the actual poems. You don't have to find research on the poems. You can go to Galileo and you can research the actual poems that I have posted. You might find stuff, you might not find stuff. If you don't find information on the exact poem that you are writing about, then you need to do some supportive research. Okay. So, for example, some of these poems deal with female friendships and abusive relationships. Okay. You could research about the importance of female friendship in reference to abusive relationships. Some of the poems deal with depression and homosexuality in children. Okay. It's one poem about a kid who is realizing that he's gay. He doesn't come out right and say that. He realizes he's different, and it makes him feel sad because the other kids realize it also, and they push him away. And how that makes him feel. Okay. So you might not find information on the exact poem, but you can find information on the topics and ideas expressed in those poems, like depression, homosexuality, and children. Coming out in adolescence, you might find a poem that deals with this. You might find some research that deals with this. There's poems that deal with racial inequalities. Again, you might not find research on the exact poem, but you can find it on this topic. Okay. So when analyzing literature, find research that supports your interpretation rather than finding research about someone else's interpretation. So again, there's a poem like the Giving Tree. Okay, and the Giving Tree, you can interpret the Giving Tree as about how women, who the tree, give themselves away out of self-sacrifice. Okay, so with that, all right, you could find an article like this one. In a society that fetishizes female self-sacrifice, Saying No Saved Me by Grace Jennings. Okay, this article is not about the Giving Tree, but it is about how women sometimes give too much. Okay, so if you read this, you might find this quote. We so often say yes to favors, requests, and unrealistic parenting expectations because we fear being accused of being rude, mean, or selfish. Working mothers have shouldered the majority of the burden around the home. Women need to draw boundaries around what we can and cannot take on in our own domestic partnerships. These are all quotes from this article. This article does not talk about the Giving Tree, okay? But this research can be applied to interpreting what the Giving Tree is really about. In the Giving Tree, the tree represents the self-sacrificing nature of women and how society, as in the boy, takes advantage of the female sex, expecting her to give her entirety to serve the common good. That's claim. In her article, In a Society That Fetishizes Female Self-Sacrifice, Saying No Saved Me, Grace Kenning discusses the burden at home that women faced during the pandemic and how one word saved the author: no. She writes that we so often say yes to favors, requests, and unrealistic parenting expectations because we fear being accused of being rude, mean, or selfish. Support. Now we have the analysis. In the Giving Tree, the tree doesn't say no, and because of that, she loses everything she has. If the tree had said no to the boy, she wouldn't have lost everything in the end. Women are the trees. They give everything, saying yes even if it will hurt them. As the author argues, women should learn how to say no because we can at least draw boundaries around what we can and cannot take on. This poem serves as an allegory to teach young girls how not to be used by the people in their lives. So you don't want to end up like the Giving Tree, which is just an old stump in which someone will just rest their butt on. Okay. All right, so that's the example of research that's about the ideas in the poem, but they're not actually about the poem. Okay, so you can find research that you relate to the poem to better understand the poem. Okay, you don't have to find research on the actual poem. I hope that makes sense. Okay, so final thing, respectable sources outside of Galileo. New York Times, Vulture, The Atlantic, Slate, The Guardian, The Economist, Washington Times, Psychology Today, New York Magazine. You need to have an author. If you find a website that is not an author, okay, then that's problematic. So try to find an actual author who has written about it. Okay, even if they're just a blogger, if they are a writer, whatever, okay? Sources not to cite from directly. I'm going to show you a little tip here. Wikipedia. Don't cite Wikipedia in your paper. Online dictionary, encyclopedia.com websites without any governing boards or editors. Sources that seem not to be an authority on the subject. Someone just talking, okay? Don't cite those, okay? Now, Wikipedia, I'm going to show you one thing before we get done, okay? How you can smartly utilize Wikipedia, okay? New share. I'm going to go to Wikipedia here. All right, so let's say you are writing a thing on your topic is depression. Okay, you want to talk about how depression in the character of the poem that you read is impacting them. Okay, well, I don't want you to cite Wikipedia in all of this. Okay, so let's say this. Let's say you're like, oh, adversity in childhood, such as bereavement, neglect, mental abuse, physical abuse, sexual abuse, or unequal parenting treatment of siblings can contribute to depression in adulthood. Okay, well, maybe that idea relates to your analysis of your poem. Okay, so if you go here, these are footnotes. Okay, these are their sources, which they use to justify this idea. You can click on it, and it brings you here. Okay, and then you can try to actually find this paper. Okay, you can try to find it. You can go to Galileo and you can look it up. All right. If you can find, okay, look, oh my gosh, here it is. Okay, well, this is just a summary. This is not the actual article. So if you go to Galileo and you actually are able to get this PDF, not a summary, all right, in this case, you have to purchase PDF, but I bet if you go to our online library, which I'm not going to do because I know this has already been an hour long. If you go to the library, okay, and you go to Galileo and you search up this, you search up the authors and you find the actual article, then you can read it. Find a quote and then cite the article, okay? You can go to Wikipedia and look at the references. And, oh, this one has a PDF already archived, okay? And you can pull up one of these PDF, one of their sources, read some of it, find a quote that you can apply to your poem analysis, and then you cite that article. You don't cite Wikipedia, okay? You follow their footnotes and you go to where the original information came from and you read that information, or at least peruse through that information and find a good quote, right? But you don't actually cite Wikipedia or encyclopedias or dictionaries, okay? All right, I think this is enough. I think I've done enough for you all. Again, we're working out of Unit 3 poetry. Here's the poems that you are reading. Okay. There's the essay description. This is the packet in which you can choose from for your poetry. You should go ahead and start reading through those. Okay, because you're writing your essay 2 next week. So yeah. So like here's the poetry through different perspectives. There's 13 pages of poems. You don't have to read all of them. You're just picking 3 from this packet. Okay. And they're in different categories. So yeah. All right, y'all. Email me if you have any questions. Okay. I'm around. Have a good week. Remember, your paper has been extended to Sunday night. All right. I'll be grading them Monday morning, bright and early at 4:30 in the morning. Okay. 1 week from today. So the new due date for that essay is Sunday night, the 12th. All right, y'all. Peace out. Hasta la vista. I'm ending.